Let us not dawdle, for there are grudges to settle, and new entries in the Dammer's Cron to right!
Howdy, howdy, Sudevil here, and welcome to a Dwarf matchup versus the High Elves featuring Aurora Boss, my multiplayer coach. He has his own channel. I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can go to his channel and see his games. He is a top-level ladder player, and he was recently featured on my very first, we'll call it podcast, the Grumbling Dwarf, and we talked about Trollhammer torpedoes specifically. So this game is going to feature Trollhammer torpedoes and sort of the way that Aurora Boss plays him. Now, this map is a little bit, for some reason it flickers a little bit. It is what it is. So for his build, he has two Rangers out front, obviously just to get some early poke. They are hidden because they have stock. He has 6 Longbeards. He really does like to use Longbeards, and there is a fantastic way he uses them in this matchup, which you're going to see. They're really to hold the line to let his backline go to work. And what is his backline? 3 Trollhammer torpedoes, and they can do a ton of work. He also has for his leader a Rune Lord with just the Rune of Wrath and Rune. He also has Slayers and Giant Slayers along with 2 cannons in that backline. A very, really he just wants to be able to shoot out whatever comes in and defend multiple lines with his Longbeards. Well, whatever comes to that back line, these Giant Slayers can go and defend against. So for his opponent, this is a typical high elf build. I would say it has over on this side Alariel the Radiant, but she is just on a horse. It has 2 noble chariots. Alariel does have her pretty normal kit. Star of Avalorn for the huge heals, Staff of Avalorn for the magic, Arcane Conduit for the extra magic, Earthblood for the heals, Faw's Protection for the extra armor and melee defense, which is actually good against Slayers. She also has Boon of Isha for the magical damage and immune to psychology. I don't know if that's the greatest pick here, but she has Shield of Safri, so every time she casts something, everyone map-wide gets 11% damage resistance, which is great. Life Bloom, again, every time she casts a spell, everybody gets a heal for 5 seconds, and then of course she's got her regular kit. These guys do actually have their, aside from being on their chariots, they do have the Deadly Onslaught for the 36% charge bonus, 20% armor piercing, 20% weapon damage, and Foe Seeker for the extra 24% speed and 18% vigor. That's going to bring their speed up very, very high. Along with that, he has an Ithalmar chariot, which does have anti-infantry on it. For the front line, you see I have White Lion of Trace and Spearmen mixed in together, so 4 White Lions and 2 Spearmen. Also has an Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower up here. We're going to see sort of a funny effect with these Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. So the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower along with the Reaper Bolt Thrower for the Dark Elves, I believe are the most accurate artillery in the entire game at 50 accuracy. Cannons, I think, are 40 accuracy. So they're pretty good at counter battery, and they do have that 380 range. We're going to get to see them go against 2 cannons here and expose one of the flaws of the cannons. Far over to this side, he has 2 Shadow Warriors, and they do have Firewall Moving, Vanguard Deployment, and Stock, so they're going to be able to kind of come in here. So we're going to start this playing and just sort of see how things go out. I'm going to have to slow things down a little bit when we actually get into the beginning of the engagement, but the end of the cannon's range is right here. So you can see this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower only has 380 range, the cannons have 440, so these things are going to be in the cannon's range. Now cannons are really, really strong. You can see they're taking early shots at the Spearmen just because they're in range. Then he's going to take the White Lions because they're in range. And as soon as these Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers come into range, you can see he's going to switch his target. There he goes to the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. So he's got both his cannons on that Eagle Claw. Cannons are actually pretty good on a very flat surface, but they can struggle in when units are moving or when there is a slight elevation difference. And you can see the cannons are a little higher than this plane where the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and a lot of the cannon shots are just sort of going past where that is. So these Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers are going to start shooting now. Really, the High Elf player is just going to bring up his army, find a place to get those guys in. He will want to get his infantry up before he exposes these guys, but he will bring them in the side, and they are pretty fast, so they're going to get there. So he really wants to get the engagement going before much of anything happens. And a work boss here is just now got everything focused on that Eagle Cloud Bolt Thrower, and you can see the Eagle Cloud Bolt Thrower is very, very accurate. You know, directly hitting the model of the cannon. It's already killed one cannon, and it still has 3 models of its own. You can see these cannon shots. You know, like one cannon shot can take out a full model, a model of the Eagle Cloud Bolt Throwers. Like, cannons are more powerful than Eagle Cloud Bolt Throwers by quite a bit, but they can struggle in certain situations. So in comes the artillery, or sorry, not the artillery, in comes the spearmen, and they're really starting to get into that front. You can see, I'm just going to slow it down here. You can see what a worker boss is doing right here. He actually knows the white lions are going to crush the longbeards. He wants the to create an edge on engagement for any of the white lions, but he also wants to create a kill box right here, so that all his iron drakes can shoot into the center of that formation, and potentially just kill whatever comes there. And these guys have a long ways to go, and we've got some guys coming around that outside. So a work boss is actually using formation manipulation to make his longbeards last longer, and to allow his troops to do more damage. So you can see now he's starting to get some early damage into those white lines of trace, and this is where those iron drakes, we talked about a lot, can really, really perform. So things are going quickly. He's got his rangers and his iron drakes here on these white lines. You can see he's opened up a corridor here. So he's opened up a corridor here like that for his units to shoot through. He's got his Rune Lord back here, and you know, he's ready to help out with whatever he has to. But he's bringing his Trollhammers forward because, again, he's got another, we're going to say another corridor here, so he can actually shoot through that with both of these guys, and his cannons if he wants to, for that matter. So this is sort of really this kind of high level play. This is something that I find very, very difficult to actually do well in game. You can see the cannons are still shooting against that bolt thrower. The bolt thrower has 3 models, and I believe they kill another model here, and very, very close. But you can see in this frontline engagement, a work boss is really focusing onto these white lines of trace, and now he's got them in his kill box. So what's shooting at them? It's got his 2 of his iron drakes and 1 of his rangers. I just want you to see how much damage they're going to do with their volleys against those white lines of trace, and he's kind of created that space for them to come under, so they can just come into his trap. And let's see, I guess we'll let that play. See some of the damage coming in. And he missed with these guys, unfortunately. They're going to come in, so he's going to actually target them, and you can see another cannon, I believe, has been killed on this side. Now in comes the sort of the meat and potatoes of this army. They're going to try and come in, and obviously he was trying to get this done early, but these white lions have gotten in, but he does have these longbeards here ready to come in, and slayers, and he has some giant slayers somewhere right back here to come in and help in that engagement. Meanwhile, on this side, these guys are finally kind of getting into position so they can start shooting. He's taking his longbeards and going around to want to get into a position to do something there. He's going to see these guys and try to deal with them right away. In this middle, now he said, sort of panicked. He said, okay, I'm going to put my Master Rune of Wrath and Rune on these white lions and attack them with my giant slayers. And, you know, realizing this tactic didn't work out, he's actually going to put all his resources into finishing off those white lions and getting to the route, and he does. And you can see this is this typical of a really good player and this is what I really struggle with, is if this didn't work for me, my entire game would be demolished. But for a Rorqual boss, he just changes his plan. He saved he saved his Master Rune of Wrath and Rune, and he routes these guys right away. Now in come the chariots. These guys are getting ready to actually pull into that side and start doing damage. And he's really going to continue to focus on the white lines of trace and start doing damage there. And he's actually put his rangers on this side to kind of go back against these Shadow Warriors. So he's shooting back there. These Shadow Warriors are shooting at other targets, and he has actually shattered the white lines. In comes the Ithilmar chariot, and you can see, again, I'm going to slow things down. It's a bit of a mess, but there's clear firing lines every which way that you look for the Dowie. And now in comes the two nobles and Alarielle, and the Elithimar chariot, holy cow, is coming as well, and it looks like it's going to get a heal or something like that. No, Faw's protection, so 30 armor, 27 melee defense to help it survive in there against Giant Slayers. So Giant Slayers are not the best target, but you can see here is the big thing. These Iron Drakes, they do so much damage. Boom. And this is for, I mean, I guess anyone playing the High Elves too. I mean, you got to attack with everything at once. This is what a work boss tells me when he's coaching me. You know, we really got to focus on trying to get all of your attacks going at once. And because these Iron Drakes are doing a ton of damage, and these guys are just coming in, and this Ithilmar chariot is going to be routed, and then a work boss can change his target into something else. And there it goes, it's routed. Now he's going to change his target to this chariot right here, this noble. In the backside, he's got Longbeards now going after the Shadow Warriors. Remember, they were going to go around this way, but he actually moved them, and he's going to go around this way to get after the Shadow Warriors. He's still fighting with his Rangers in the middle of the pocket. He's still got his Giant Slayers and his Slayers to try and muck things up, and he's really trying to focus what's down there. In this middle part, these Longbeards here are holding like champs. These Longbeards are holding, but they're going to lose pretty soon to the White Lions. And these Longbeards are holding here very, very nicely. But he's got to deal with these guys now. He's got everything on this Noble. And you can see, boom, look how fast. Gone. Noble is gone. This is why these Trollhammer Torpedoes are so powerful. Now he's got everything on Alarielle. He's going to get some shots, but she's got to get the heck out of dodge. You're going to see her get moving. She's got Giant Slayers coming after her, and you know, you can just see the damage coming onto her. Now this Noble Chariot is now coming to the back line. Again, there's been constant pressure over here, but now the Longbeards are chasing away the Shadow Warriors. These Shadow Warriors are still shooting in. These Rangers are still shooting on this side, and now he's just going to focus everything onto this chariot, including his Rune Lord to help slow it down. Look at the damage. Just beautiful damage. He's even got oh no, his cannon's shooting the other way, shooting at those guys. So you can see in come the Slayers, the Giant Slayers are going to come and try and get onto that Noble. Over on this side, Alarielle is taking some Longbeards off. These White Lines of Trace has broken through. They've been picked up by another group of Longbeards, and the Master Rune of Wrath Rune is on them. So you can see how Rourke Boss is continuously using his runes. So I use them differently. Yumeis uses them differently. Rourke Boss tends to save them for sort of like a panic button. And now you can see these guys made it through. So he's got the Master Rune of Wrath and Rune, and he's bringing over some support there to help kind of stop that. I tend to use my Runes of Wrath and Rune to slow things down to attack them, and Yumeis likes to use his Runes of Wrath and Rune to go way out front and get early damage. So it's interesting the ways you can use your Wrath and Rune, but you can see here really he's just going right after these White Lines of Trace, and he has done a number to Alarielle. She's kind of gone off to the side, and where is that chariot? Did he already get that other chariot? Huh. Maybe he did. I did not see that. But over here, you can see this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Still actually has two bolts left. Let me see, Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. But is not on them for some reason. And anyways, now you can see Rourke Boss is really focused on trying to clear this out to let his Trollhammer Torpedoes operate now. And he's got his Giant Slayers running around and around, but he's been able to do that and actually keep these guys relatively online. So we're going to let the rest of this battle play. Alarielle is going to come in and try and get some rear charges to get these Longbeards and Slayers sort of out of the picture, so the White Lions and the Spearmen can sort of push in to help. But you can see now he's just going to get everything focusing on Alarielle, and in comes the Trollhammer Torpedoes, in comes the cannon. You know, Alarielle's going to have a hard time standing up to this sort of pressure. Obviously, boom, gets hit right in the face. is always satisfying. I learned why. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's always so funny to me to watch elves get hit in the face with cannons. It just is. Oh man. And you can see how Rookabos used his army in this battle to deal with the threats that he had. Very specifically, you can see what he did with the Iron Drakes. Took out the Elithimar chariot. He took out both the nobles. He got a little bit of chip damage into the White Lions, and then he finally used it to take out Alarielle. And really, he was just holding with his Longbeards and holding with his, ultimately holding and attacking to make sure those Slayers kept the inside of that, the chariots had to keep moving, and using his Runes of Wrath and Ruin defensively to help stop White Lions that got through that front line. So a really clear picture of how Rookabos does like to use these Trollhammer torpedoes. And if you listen to the podcast, I would definitely recommend, if you haven't, go, like, this game I've had for, oh man, I want to say 2 months, 3 months. I just haven't had a chance to get to casting it. And you listen to everything that Rookabos talks about, or everything that Eumedes talks about, you see actually taking place in this game where Rookabos is trying to keep some firing lanes open. He's trying to go sidelong to help his Longbeards last longer. And the one thing that we didn't really talk about is the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, how it's used. And maybe that could be a topic of a podcast sometime. But we really talked about the Trollhammer torpedoes, and everything, almost everything that Rookabos talked about in that podcast, you can see actually play out on the field of battle in this fight, which is really, really fascinating for me to watch. I mean, I love this fight, and you know, it's one of those battles where there's so much going on in such a small amount of time. It is hard to get everything, and I still, you know, miss that one freaking chariot dying because I'm just trying to keep on top of everything that's going on. I did a lot of slow motion in there. So anyways, 21 kills with the Rune Lord, but really, really good use of that Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. 21, 29, 4, 18, 41, and 18 with the Longbeards. And obviously, they're just to hold. This is to hold the line and let his back line go to work. 33 and 34 with the Slayers and the Giant Slayers. And really, you could see nothing could stay still in that middle pocket. And he said often he'll keep Slayers right on top of his Iron Drakes, literally, and keep his Iron Drakes in guard mode so they can still shoot, and that's exactly what he did. The two Rangers, 2 and 22, you know, they got a little bit of chip damage into the White Lions. They got a little counter damage into the Shadow Warriors. You know, but they didn't perform at a really high level in this game, I would say. 33, 33, and 17. You know, Iron Drakes and 2 Chevrons. Iron Drakes are the heroes of this battle. I mean, they literally killed both nobles with his chariot, got some damage to the White Line, and killed Alarielle. Like, well, the cannons had a little bit to do that. 9 and 17 with the cannons, and the cannons could not kill the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Now, this is, again, you put one cannon versus one Eagle Claw, the cannon on a flat ground, cannon wins, you know, 4 times out of 5, we're going to say. Probably 9 times out of 10. But those Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, you get 2 of them, they can take out a cannon. You get a little bit of elevation. The cannons sometimes struggle with that. Not always, but they can. So Bolt Throwers can be risky versus cannons, but they can also pay off, and in this, the Bolt Throwers did actually quite good. The cannons only got 9 and 17, and Rookabos obviously realized that and changed the targets of what his cannons were targeting at some point. Now, for the High Elves, Alarielle, the Radiant, 8, you know, Rookabos is a proponent of Alarielle on a Great Eagle. I could see on her horse. I mean, I think put her on foot, just make her, you know, it doesn't even matter, I don't think. But nobles are, you're going to see them almost always. 13 and 53. Noble on a chariot. 20 and 4 with the spearmen. They were just there to get in the way. The main push was 67, 37, 2, and 31 with the White Lions. And those aren't that great of a number for the White Lions. White Lions of Trace are very good against Dowie infantry. And so that's a low number. I think that's a testament to the way that Rookabos actually played that front line to hold them back. And you can see he did give 2 of his Master Runes of Wrath and Ruin onto the White Lions. And these ones that got 2 were the ones that got in early, obviously. The Shadow Warriors, 6 and 23. I like the idea. I find that really the Sisters of Avalorn are the unit I think that the High Elves want. One of them to deal with gyros and do some armor piercing, and one unit of really they only need one unit of archers, even the very cheap one, to try and shoot at giant slayers and slayers. So I think, but it was an interesting idea. Had this high elf player actually had these guys pushed way up front and gotten right behind the Dowie and focused on the giant slayers first, it could have been really a good use of these shadow warriors. So we'll see. And the Lithomar Chariot 8, it was focused down early, and 17 with the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. So again, Rourke Boss has his own YouTube channel. Go over there. He's uploading regularly, and he plays a lot more than just the Dowie, and has a very clear perspective on multiplayer in general. And he's fun to listen to. He talks at a different level, the way he thinks about the game, which is always great. And he is my multiplayer coach. He has literally cut my ladder rating in half, which are essentially doubled my performance on ladder in 4 sessions. If you want to go see what those 4 sessions were all about, 2 are on my channel, 2 are on his channel. And I would like to hear from you. Have you been using Trollhammer torpedoes in your matchups? Are you liking them? It took me a while to come around to them, but really between seeing you Maze and Rourke Boss use them, I finally come around. And now that I've used them a few times and getting a little more used to them, I'm starting to love them as well. They are a great unit. With that said, hope you found this interesting, and I will see you soon.